You've reached Monster 911, and I'm Lance Hightower. I've been taking cryptid emergency calls for over 5 years. If you have a cryptid emergency, please call our toll-free number, 866-306-8085. I can help you. What's your emergency?
Okay. Well, I lived in a little town called Tunai, Georgia, down in Canton, or near Cherokee County. It was in Cherokee County.
Okay.
And I lived on, like I said, there was at least 400 houses, at least. It was, just houses everywhere. And I started seeing coyotes, things like that. And like I said, my land kind of run in like squares, I guess you'd say. And everybody had their back part fixed in. On each side of my land, it was fence running down.
Okay.
Well, I didn't fence the back of mine in. I just had enough fence to my little building where I put my lawnmower, and it gave the dog enough room to run around and stuff like that. And deers got where they would come up in there. They literally, a phone came from up to our house, up to the house. I've even seen my dog standing next to the fence, and the deer was grazing on the other side while his little nose was sticking through. That's how close they would get.
Oh, wow.
They were comfortable, you know what I mean?
Right.
I put a salt block down there one time, but anyway, I was out there one night, and I saw some red eyes when I shot my flashlight out in the woods. And they were about I'd say about 6 foot off the ground, because it was shrubs, and they were above the shrubs. It was kind of like hickories,
Mm-hmm.
like, you remember the hickories your mom and dad grabbed when you...
Oh, yeah.
Like that?
Yes.
Okay, it was above those. So I know it wasn't... I'd say a deer, because I don't think a deer would stand 6 foot tall, would it?
No. Most deer, there's deer that are inquisitive. And, if you come outside, you shine a light. We've used that old saying, like deer in headlights. They'll just stand there and stare at you. Well, we use that association a lot because they just sometimes freeze. It's kind of like a rabbit or a frog. They just freeze. But at best, you would have a deer maybe 4 feet, 4.5 feet, maybe pushing 5 if it's a large deer, but I highly doubt that. I would say more in the 3.5 to 4 foot range. And then, of course, deer, their eyes are off the side. They're in front a little bit, but they're more off to the side based on the structure of their skull. So if it's 6 feet off the ground, in other words, if you're an average-sized man and it's about as tall as you, if not taller, that's not going to be most indigenous animals. Now, the logic here is could it be a bear? It's possible, but bear are not usually stationary. They just don't stand still. They're always moving and sniffing and looking for food, so they're just not still. So when you saw this, did you shine the light right at it, or was it just off?
Yeah, I did, and I thought about that. If that was a deer the first time, it might freeze. But it looked like when I'd go back to it, it would have enough to take off, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was I thought about that, earlier. We talked, I thought about that.
Yeah.
I thought, looked like like that second time it would that's what got me leery. I just told the dog, come on, we're going back in the house. Because I felt weird. I felt something didn't feel right about it.
Okay, so you also didn't feel right about it.
No, sir. I actually felt evil, like evil.
Oh, okay. So that's different. If you're experiencing these eyes that are reflecting red, now you said that they just weren't emitting red. You actually had a light, and it was reflecting some of that light. And
they were red. Yes, sir. They were red as a flag.
Okay. And then you felt really uneasy. So that's another thing to take into account. Now, was your dog behaving oddly during that time?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't acting. Yeah, he's hard of hearing anyway, but he wasn't acting funny. He wasn't looking that way or nothing,
Okay.
even when that deer was out there that day, he stuck his nose through there. Now, if there's a bigger dog around, if he sees it, he'll start barking.
Right.
If it's his size, he won't, but that's just the type of dog he is. But I felt, I'm a Christian, I don't know, but I felt evil. I felt, something wasn't right, like a spirit, something wasn't right.
Well, that's a different story if you felt that way. Then the possibility, I always tell people, if you get a feeling that something's just not right or not as normal as it is typically, then that's kind of a red flag. Something else is up. Something else is going on. And you told me when we previous spoke today that you've never seen anything like this before, that far off the ground. So,
no, sir, I've never even said red eye shot, period, in my life that night.
Right. So that right there, it was behind was it covered up in shrubs or around shrubs? You really couldn't make out any features.
I know they were taller than me because I let it grow up down there. One time it was cleared off. So I just let it grow up. And them deer would get behind them shrubs sometimes, and they'd just disappear, and you'd watch them. I had 5 down there at one time, and you'd watch them, and they'd just disappear, it looked like. But if you get to looking real good, they'd still be standing there, The shrubs would cover them up so good.
Right. Well, and that happens a lot. Sometimes you can't make out any identifiable features if it's behind shrubbery or foliage, and that's the way it is right now where I live. I mean, if you get lucky enough to get some eye shine, it's going to be really hard to make out the true size, width, height, all those features, because the thickness of the foliage right now is we just had a lot of rain, so everything is really blossomed out quite a bit.
It's up in here like that too. Everything's real thick with leaves.
Yes, exactly. So what else did you have going on your way?
Well, see, then we moved up the road. My son lived in Pickens County. That's about 20 miles up the road, and that's where it put us in between Cherry Log and Cherokee County down below us. And I lived in a cabin. It's called help me. I'm kind of trying to think.
That's okay.
It's called Talking Rock, Georgia, and we got the cabin, and it's on a creek. And when you come in our driveway, it's dirt. The subdivision, they've been like 16 houses in the whole place. And you come in a little hill, but you go down a big old hill, and it's so steep they had to pave it because it would wash out and people couldn't get up it in the winter,
Okay.
So they paved that part of our dirt road. That's weird. And right at the bottom, there's 3 houses right at the bottom. And you go maybe not even about that tenth of a mile, and my house is on the left. And there's a good, from that house to my house, it's just blocked. Just blocked. In other words, if anything wanted to walk across there, they could, because the way that my house sits, the creek runs behind it. I can sit on the screen porch. Then it goes down behind the other house, and it goes down at the house at the end of the road and makes a U.
Okay.
And then I'm laying this out to try to tell you. What I'm saying is we live at a dead-end road, and the creek makes a U around 3 houses.
Okay.
And the houses are spaced apart. And if you try to go to the creek and you look up, it ain't nothing but a bluff.
Oh.
You'd have to literally rappel to get up it. And it goes back around toward my house, and when it gets to about my house, you could probably walk up it. But it's real steep,
Okay.
So there's water down here, and there's little fish. I don't have trout because I'm private land and they won't stock it. But we have little brim and stuff like that. Foxes, we have raccoons, we have possums, all kind of little animals, rabbits. And we moved up here, and I was just out walking on the road, and I saw a tree. It was about 6 foot tall, and it had been broke. It was about 4 inches thick, And I've been watching TV, the Bigfoot thing,
Right.
and I got into that. I got into watching that and listening to podcasts. Actually, I was listening to you when you called me earlier today.
Okay.
That was so weird. That's coincidental, or it's a blessing one. But anyway, I looked at that tree and I thought, well, there's a topland somewhere. It wasn't a pine tree neither. It was like a sweet gum or something like that. And I didn't find no top. And I looked hard. I told my wife, Donna, there ain't no top to this tree, and it's broke off about 6 foot. Something broke it.
Oh.
And I said, ain't no limbs laying around it to break. And if a limb had fell off another tree to break it, at least the top of it would have been laying there.
Right.
That's what really, so that got me started.
Okay.
And I got out there, like a dummy, really. This is why I feel like I brought a lot of this stuff on myself. I beat on this tree. I got a perfect tree. It's hollow. And I hit it one time, and that next thing I know, I got a reply. It sounded like somebody hit a piece of plywood with a hammer.
Okay.
And and I thought, well, that's somebody working on something. But I just heard it one time. I stood there, and I said, well, if they're working on something, they just drove one nail with one leg. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I thought, well, I'll hit it again enough. I didn't get no reply. So I would go out and beat on that, and I'd got where I'd whistle, a half a whistle, like a whippoorwill, the bottom part of it.
Okay.
I heard that, but, and we heard some knocks one day. My wife said, there's that knocking sound you were listening for. And I thought, what are you talking about? She said, I can hear it knocking. And I opened the window, and surely I heard like at least 6 knocks. And they were like crystal clear, just like a piece of wood hitting a tree. You couldn't, I know it sounds like I'm making this up, but you couldn't make them no better.
Was this, and this was during the day?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just like I don't know, I've heard of knocks on TV and stuff, but this was like just a thump, just a perfect knock,
Okay.
And it done it through about 6 times. And I heard it, and she heard it, and I shut the window, just went on about my business. But I started hearing knocks. But like I said, I'd walk up the road, and I'd hear an owl. And that owl would make a noise like an owl, but would bay like a horse at the end of it. And I told my son about it, and he pulled it up online. He said, yeah, they do it. They'll do that. They'll do that. But I heard it in the same spot during the day when I'd walk up the road.
Mm-hmm.
And then I really did. I'm not making this up. I'm just telling you what, maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. But about the same spot in that same area, I started hearing a growl, low guttural growl.
Yeah, tell me about that, because we spoke about that. You said you thought at first that it was like a motor.
Okay, I'll go back a little bit. I sat out on my screen deck one day out there, and it sounded like somebody tried to crank a motorcycle, old Harley. You know how they got a roar to them?
Yes.
But it sounded just like somebody kick-starting it, but it had I swear, it sounded like a line kind of mixed in with it. I know it sounds like I'm making this up.
So a motor
but it
only
happened one time.
Okay.
And I thought, well, maybe somebody's checking their motorcycle to see if it ain't froze up. But that line sounded, it wasn't like it cut my insides. It was that loud. It was just, I heard it. And I don't see things. I can't hear good, but I don't see things. I'm not the type of person. If I see something, I see something. I mean,
Sure.
And I heard that. And I'd walk back down the road where I heard that owl, and I'd hear it sound like a growl. I thought it was an old bear. I thought it was a bear.
Okay.
Heard it twice.
Wow.
In the same spot that I'm talking about where I heard that owl. My wife heard the owl. She heard the owl the second time.
Okay.
And it would bay like a horse. And we pulled it up on the internet, and they do that. But what got me was my sister-in-law and her husband come over one Sunday, and I was cooking hot dogs. They went to church with us, and they were out working in the yard. Well, they came in, and I went out and flipped the hot dogs, and I got 2 or 3 whistles sound identical to my whistle. Identical.
Oh, really?
And I got them whistles, and when I did, I whistled back, and it just stopped. It just stopped. And I'm jumping all over the place. But sometimes
No, that's okay.
Sometimes you can come down here, and we live in this hollow. I call it a hollow.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a ridge all the way around us. And you can about hear a pin drop down here sometimes.
Oh, I bet.
It gets so quiet. It just gets so quiet down here, you can hear a pin drop. And sometimes the birds are singing. And I noticed the other day that a squirrel, I didn't have no squirrels this year. And I thought maybe the hawks had got them. And I finally saw one the other day, and it was hugging the tree. I've never seen a squirrel hug a tree like this one. It was like it was coming down the tree, but it wasn't getting on no limbs. It was hugging the tree. Yeah, the animals acted funny.
Yeah.
And the whistles really throw me off. And when I thought about this when you hung up, my sister-in-law came up a few Sundays back, and they were leaving. And her and my wife was looking down talking about something. I guess they thought the dog had pooped in the yard, and they were smelling it.
Okay.
And I saw a little bitty pine cone laying in my yard. I said, "Oh, y'all talking about this pine cone?" And my wife said, "No." She said she smelled something dead. And I thought, well, that's when I got the whistles the last time they were up here. And she said she smelled something dead,
Interesting.
And I thought, well, I didn't smell nothing dead. She caught a whiff of something. And that was strange. When them women folk are around, it's like the whistles or something like that. And the other day I was out there, and it smelled like not a dead dog, but a dog with ammonia in it.
Oh, really?
Mixed with it. You know what I mean? That's the first time I've ever smelled anything like that. Just got over COVID, and instead of taking my smell, it's like
it amplified it.
Stronger.
Yeah, mine did too. When I do get whiffs of things, it's so amplified.
Yes.
It's so. It's almost like you've never used your nose before, and it's so odoriferous.
And then when you get over it, you feel like you've been saved. You feel so good, don't you?
Yeah.
I felt like I just got saved, My body, I just felt like $1 million when I got over it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Second time I had it, too.
Wow. So,
but anyway,
you said that when the women folk are around, you said that things start happening. Is that what you said?
Well, when she walked out, she said she smelled something dead.
Oh, okay.
I thought, funny to me, I didn't smell nothing dead. I don't know if my wife did or not, but I thought, that's strange. That's strange. Odor like that just popping up. And then the other day, I was sitting in the swing, and I smelled like a dog. My dog's in the house, and when he does go outside, you can smell him, but usually you can't smell him. He's the breed he is. You smell any dog, they'll tell you can't smell him, but every dog you can smell if it gets wet or if it goes outside.
Mm-hmm.
But I am sitting out there, and I smelled a dog smell and had ammonia about mixed in with it. It was strong, real strong.
Okay.
But I kept, out of my side of my eye, I kept thought I seen shadows down in the woods, in the thick of the woods.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe a bird or a squirrel. So I was looking for the limbs to move. Didn't see nothing. A little while later, I saw another. It looked like just a shadow. You know what I mean? Real quick.
Down. This is during the daytime, correct?
Yes, sir. And I sat on my porch. I sat out on the front porch. She wanted to swing on that porch, and I didn't want it. And now I love it. I don't sit out on my screening porch. I sat out on the front porch.
Okay.
But I kept seeing this. I seen it about 3 times out of the side of my eye, and I kept thinking bird. Look for a bird, limb moving, or look for a squirrel, limb moving.
Sure.
Never did see nothing.
That's interesting.
But I was going home from the Walmart one day, over on the road not far from me, Now this, I can't tell you. I'm just going to tell you what I saw, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I was coming in a straightaway, and there was one car coming toward me.
Okay.
And as soon as that car got down the road, something ran out behind it, and it was slim and tall. It was over 6 foot tall. Solid black, shoes, I call it shoes. Looked like it had a hoodie on, looked like it had black pants on, and it was misted rain, and it was running. I mean, I thought to myself, boy, that guy is booking it. And the way he run like a limpet runner. Now, that's why I'm thinking it might have been a person. His knees would come straight up, and his arms would come straight up with it. And they would come down. And I thought, that guy's booking it. But I said, look at his shoes. Look at his shoes. Black. And I said, black pants.
Yeah, everything was.
Hoodie.
Yeah, and this was after the car had passed?
Yes, sir.
And it was. You were looking forward, or were you looking in the rearview mirror?
I was looking forward. It ran out behind the car right out there. It passed like it was waiting on it to pass.
Oh.
And I was coming toward it. So I gunned it because I thought I might have saw something.
Right.
But by the time I got up there, there was this business, and it had a gate. I thought he had been over the road probably talking to somebody at another business, and he didn't want to get wet. He was trying to get back over there. But that gate was locked. They were locked down for the day. So I know whoever that was didn't have time to run through that gate and lock it and get to the building. By the time I got to it, it ran up in the woods. Ran up in the woods.
Well, that tells me right there, what's the when you see something like that and you're not sure what you saw,
Yes, sir.
you try to say, okay, what's the logic here? Is it logical for a person dressed all in black, running right behind a car, and then just disappearing in the woods? What's the purpose? What's
I thought of a cat burglar. You ever heard of
So
that's what I thought
with
of.
everything else that you have happening, you just try to use kind of Occam's razor here. When all else be equal, what else does it come down to? So really, with everything else that you've had going on, that's maybe not a clear, direct sighting. You're seeing.
That's what I'm saying. I can't say because I never got close enough. But it was tall and thin. It wasn't muscular and all built. But buddy, he ran like a track runner. I know that.
There you go.
His feet would come up and his arm would come up, and he was laying them, picking them up and laying them down. I mean.
Yeah. So, there's very few things that'll run like that, supernatural fast speed. And these creatures do just that. They have supernatural abilities, supernatural strength, and when they're out in the woods, really they have supernatural intelligence, far beyond what we have when we're in the woods. We have to use camouflage and scent cover and camo paint and all these other devices and instruments and apparel to try and blend into the woods, where these creatures, they just step in the woods and they're already there. And they do this without thinking. That's kind of how they were bred into this wildlife, this density of the woods. So they do it quite well. They're very fast and they blend in extremely quick. And so they don't waste a lot of time when they're trying to cross a road or a highway system, especially if there's other cars coming. I really don't think they waste a lot of time. Now, the most common area of a road in which a lot of people see sightings is curves, around corners or curves. And I was thinking about that rather than straightaways, although it does happen. And I think it's because that around curves, you're not seen on a straightaway. You're not seen on a curve. So you can hurry up and cross that curve and be into the woods lickety-split. So on straightaways, the light beams go for a quarter mile sometimes, depending on the where you're at. And someone's got brights, it can go further than that. And you can see something up ahead of the the road that crossed. But around corners, it's really hard to see that.
Three-lane road. There's three-lane road. There's two lanes coming toward me and one coming back. I was in the single lane.
Okay.
And it it would look like a basketball player nearly. It was tall.
Well, there's not very many things that's going to be tall like that and run that fast.
The hoodie thing, here's the head. Here's the head, It looked like a person. I thought it was maybe somebody might have been over in somebody's house. But it run up in the woods, and I didn't see it after that. It was gone.
Was it running from a neighborhood or any particular?
It was running out of a little, not a neighborhood, but like there was a house and a business, a Volkswagen business, in between it, and it just come out like between there, like it maybe. I thought it might have been somebody over there visiting somebody and trying to get home before it got wet, but it was all black, dressed in black, and it was hooking it though. What caught my eye was I said to myself, "Boy, that guy is hooking it now." That's what I said to myself, and then I realized, no, wait a minute. Then I gunned it because I wanted to get a good look.
Yeah,
and
of course.
Before I could get up there, it was gone. It was gone, and I wasn't even hardly a tenth of a mile from it if I was that far.
Well, not many.
I know my car
do
at least 60 and a tenth of a mile, surely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, the likelihood of this being a Bigfoot-type creature is very likely based on a lot of other events and circumstances you have going on right now or have had going on. So the likelihood is very high that was a Bigfoot. Now, a lot of people think they have to be, when you see a Bigfoot, it has to be barrel-chested, it has to be massive in size, all those things, but not really. Lane, my brother, his father-in-law saw one where we grew up in western Oklahoma, and he went down an obscure road, kind of a back way to go home one time. And it was to the east of where the town we grew up. And he went this obscure way. He hardly goes down it, but he went this obscure way. It was a really hot July day some years ago. And so he pulled under a tree to talk to his brother because he doesn't like to drive and talk at the same time. And he parked the car, and he saw crows dive bobbing something, and he saw something like swatting something. He's still talking to his brother, and then it just kind of disappeared. And then, like 2 minutes later, a Sasquatch jumped out from this thick ditch right in the middle of the road. It was tall, lean, it was skinny, kind of skinny, wasn't big or barrel-chested, and it looked at him for a second, and then it jumped up the other embankment and took off. And he just was in shock. Like, he told his brother, as he was talking to his brother, he said, "I think I just saw a Sasquatch." And so this is someone that, never had an encounter, doesn't really go out into the woods all that often, doesn't listen to any shows. It's just a guy minding his own business, went down a road that he very rarely goes down, and here he has an encounter midday. And where this Bigfoot was coming from was a pond that was in the middle of this 160, this section, and it was in a bowl area. So this pond was kind of obscured by the landscape. So from the north, east, south, or west, you couldn't see this pond, which was very interesting. So it went there to get a drink, is what we suspect. And then it was coming back. And he says it was the shiniest, oily, it looked like it had a coat of oil on it. The hair was so black and shiny. It was like it had oil on the skin, which doesn't surprise me. I do believe that a lot of animals, just like humans, we as Homo sapiens, we secrete an oil on the surface of the skin for our hair, and so our skin doesn't dry out, and it's protection. It's for hydration. It's for hydration purposes and other protection benefits. But anyway, I suspect that that's what it was. But anyway, he, it was lean. It was skinny. So we don't know if it was young, which is possible, it had not fully matured out skeletal-wise, or was it a different type of species? We don't know. What we do know is he saw what he saw. But
one thing he had going for him, it was going the other way.
You're right. You're right.
I was just listening to you too about the man in Ohio, where his
No.
brother-in-law and him was fishing,
Yes.
and he was talking to you about the people coming checking him out and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and he was scared.
Mm-hmm.
He said he was an Army Ranger. I think I heard him say that.
Yes.
Ranger. Well, we've got a ranger camp not even 30 miles from us that they train rangers. So it makes me wonder if they don't patrol this area up here just for that.
Well,
I see that gunshot that night. I told you I heard that gunshot,
yeah.
and I went over to my neighbors to make sure they were all right. That's when I asked him if he was out there whistling for his dog. And he said, no, I don't ever whistle for my dog. That's why I said she couldn't whistle. So that told me they were not out there whistling that day. I heard that whistling.
Well, it's if you've got any of this military and they're there in search of these creatures, there you'll see cars that you normally don't see around, and they're not always going to be trucks or SUVs, but they most likely would be in most cases. They'll have dark, blacked out windows, or if they're in a helicopter, which it'll be a low-flying helicopter, and it'll be...
Yeah, I've had that happen down. I was out my yard star watching one night. I know I'm getting into it, but I saw I call it a dancing star. I even recorded it, and like a dummy erased it. But there's a helicopter flew by that night. It was low. It was down in the holler. It was not above the holler. It was down in the holler that night. I don't know what they were up to that night. I got eye shine in a tree that night, but it was white eye shine, and I just didn't bother whatever it was. I shot my flashlight up there, and I couldn't tell. I just saw its eyes, but it was white. It was white looking. But that did happen, and when I was watching that, I call it a dancing star. I had a video of it. People would tell you it would wiggle one side to the other, then it would go up, and I had video of it. But one night, this is really weird, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm not making this up. I'm just telling you what I saw and heard.
Sure.
One night I said something happened around 10 o'clock. Around that night, I heard the gunshot, and I asked my neighbor, and then something happened again. My wife and them come home they had been down in Pensacola when the hurricane hit, and they were determined to get their condo money worth, you know what I mean?
Oh, right.
They didn't come home. And I prayed, please, God, bring them home safe. Bring my car home safe, too. I mean, I'm afraid it's going to flood my car.
Sure.
They stepped through that hurricane. Well, they got home about 9 o'clock that Saturday night, 9:30, and somewhere around that. And they said that they heard kids playing. They ain't but 3 houses down here, about a tenth of a mile from the house above us, so there's plenty of space between the 3 at the bottom of the hill I was talking about. Then you come about a tenth of a mile down the road, maybe, and there's my house and 2 other houses, and that's dead-end road. They heard kids playing. Well, my neighbor goes to bed, I say, about 6 o'clock every night because he gets up he told me around 3 o'clock in the morning, you know? He's just one of them type of people. He's a real good man. He's a preacher. He's a good man. And we got good people that live down here. And they said that he had his grandkids out there playing. I said, no, he didn't. I said, no, it was raining. It was 9:30 at night. That man was probably in bed or inside the house watching TV at the most. But he wasn't outside with no grandkids. And the lady that lives in the other cabin, she gave it to her son and nephews, and they're not allowed to sell it because her husband lived it, built it, and loved it, but she kept it. She kept it to family. So they come to it just every now and then. So it's kind of like we're off to ourselves in this hollow that's surrounded by a big ridge and a creek surround us. So all these animals, I've seen foxes down here, deer, stuff like that, baby deer. My son's girlfriend saw a baby deer the other day. But this summer so far, I've not had, birds have been singing, and I had a lot more activity except that squirrel acting real strange. Maybe the hawks has got them worried, you know?
Well, that's possible because you know what'll eat squirrels is bobcats, mountain lions, hawks, owls.
Yeah.
They got to be careful.
I believe we have them here in Georgia. The mountain lions, people said we don't. We got bobcats, but I believe we got them. People just don't see them.
Yeah, they're probably there. They're just really stealthy. And getting back to earlier, as far as the military base that you have, I would say that what was that military base again?
It's where they train. They come. I think they come from out of. Anyway, the name of the base I don't know, but they train rangers there.
Okay.
Ranger camp.
Okay, so they're training Army Rangers.
Yes, and they it's still there. You can look it up on the internet. They come out of I forgot Fort something Stewart or something, not Fort Stewart, but one down in South Georgia, and where they sniper school and all that.
Okay.
I believe they might drop them off up there at night. You'll hear these planes going by. They'll like three will go by. They're like these Osprey kind of cargo planes. You know, an Osprey where the engines fly straight up, they can land up and down.
Yes.
Makes you wonder if they don't drop them off up there at night and maybe make them parachute or something to train, because they train. It's mountain area. We are right at the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. I got a sign right down the road. It says foothills of the Appalachian Mountains.
That's a beautiful area then, and that's perfect.
It is, and it's quiet, but that's what gets me. Sometimes the woods is just singing with birds, and sometimes you can hear a pin drop. And I figured that's when something's around.
Right. Well, that's just it. That's a good point, because usually when they're around, everything gets super, super quiet. And if you ever have any military that are actively looking for these creatures, at night they will use these smaller helicopters, and sometimes they'll be super quiet helicopters where they have a double blade system to cancel out the sound. And on the belly of the helicopter, they're going to have like some type of a thermal device where they can pick up heat signatures, and that's what they're looking for. That's what they're using in these scout helicopters. There's going to be no identifiable letters or numbers on them. And so, but if you start having cars in the neighborhood that are dark windowed, especially if they have government tags on them, they're not there for a population census. They're there for other reasons.
They're watching me.
Well,
somebody's talking about it.
There's somebody's talking about it, and they're trying to see what you're talking about, what you're saying. You know, are you saying you want to go shoot them? Are you going to trap them? Which you don't want to be talking about that stuff. They're looking.
I've learned all this from people like you that I listen to.
Right. Okay.
I've learned this. You know, I've been listening to you for a while. Not you know, lately. I switched out some things because you know, I know if there's one got on religion, and he kind of knocked my belief, and he was joking that he's knocking my belief, and I kind of took it offense. I quit listening to him, but that's all right. You know, I still love him. But the bottom line is, I got that from people like you about the woods getting quiet. There's predator.
Yes.
I don't hunt. I used to hunt, and the black cars and stuff. And people laugh at you if you try to talk to them about that stuff.
Well, and you know, there's even some podcast shows that kind of laugh at you and will cut you off. They'll say that
you're like
they'll say it's.
What is it? The guy, the king, had to come around to make him laugh. You know, one of the little outfit to make the king laugh. Jester, the king jester.
Okay. Well,
They treat you like the king jester. They laugh at you. You know. Like
well, the thing of it is that I didn't know how deep all of this really went until I got involved back in 2017, and it wasn't until about the latter part of 2017 when things started noticeably changing on my computer, and my phone was behaving very strange. Like anything, you know enough of what normal is day to day that when abnormal comes along, it just sticks out. You know something's not right, and you just kind of scratch your head. But then you start seeing things repeatedly, a common thread of things happening, very odd, very strange. And then I started, when I was doing these interviews, I was having people call me back and saying, Lance, after we spoke, this is what happened. And these were very solid, grounded, down-to-earth people, everyday, hardworking people like us. And they would call me back and say, this is what happened, and this is crazy. I got to tell you. I got to tell you what happened. And they would talk about people that came up to their door, people that were not behaving very nice, that asked them questions, would never identify who they were. They would come in government, all kinds of different vehicles, but they all had dark windows and government tags. They would come in suits sometimes they would not. Sometimes they always came in twos, either a man or a woman, or a man and a man, but never a woman and a woman. Never a woman. It's either a man or a woman, or a gentleman and a gentleman.
Like the biker-looking dude and the well-dressed dude or something like that. I've heard
that's been on occasion, and then other occasions they've just been two. In most of the cases, it's just guys that are probably in their 40s, 50s, and that are dressed similar in some type of a khaki pant, hiker pants, very casual, no identifiable badges. The car, there's no identifiable features of the car, very generic. And the cars are not always going to be the typical SUV. Now they vary. It could be a small little economy car. It could be a large SUV. It could be a truck. It could be a sedan. It could be a Mini Cooper. It could be a Jeep. It could be anything. But what the identifiable features typically, dark tinted windows and government tags. And they usually, it'll be a car out of place. And usually when they park anywhere, they always leave distance where they can get out quickly. So when they park in like a general parking lot, they back in.
Yeah.
Like our police and our first responders, how they back the emergency, how the police car is backed in, it's never pulled in, right? They back in as to be ready for anything. That's how they back in. So that's another identifiable feature that you see quite frequently. And it'll be a car out of place. In other words, it's going to be a car that, you know, your neighbor's cars. This one sticks out of place. It'll be a what?
Wrong side of the fence of the law at one time, and I knew exactly what you're talking about. We had one phone booth you could call long distance on it for $0.25. And when I lived 1 mile up the road, and I had to pay long distance calls, I would go to that phone booth. Well, this guy in a green car with green khakis on looked like a landscaper. He would come up and get on the phone next to me. I'm saved now, and thank God I got away from that. But he gave himself away. He didn't have enough sense to take his gun off. And sure enough, he showed up at my house, and it was GBI.
Yeah, that's these guys are.
His gun, sir.
These guys are really stealthy and sleuthy. So
yeah, if he took his gun off, he'd have had me. I would have took him as a landscaper.
Yeah.
But he didn't take his gun off. If he took his gun off, I'd have been hook, line, sinker. I'd have taken he was a landscaper. Green car, green shirt, green pants. That's what they furnish him, you know.
You know, I'm glad you brought it up. It's very similar how this agency, these dark agents, these dark programs, how they behave the same way. It does not surprise me.
They might come to my house and thinking they're just taking a survey.
It could be that, but
I just won't try to milk me for information. Not because I'm gonna kill one or go hunting for him, but I'm blabbing my mouth and I might start a panic in the neighborhood or something.
Well, they've got their own motives why that they want people to be quiet regarding these creatures is because they're more than just animals. These are intelligent beings that have self-awareness.
Do you think they're like another tribe of human or something?
Well, I don't want to say that they're human. I don't believe they're Homo sapiens like we are. I believe that they are mammals. They obviously have an affinity to walk upright. They, in my opinion, I mean, obviously they, I shouldn't say obvious. I believe that they do have a language. I believe they do mate during certain times of the year. I believe that they do have areas they migrate to for seasons.
It seems like,
And I do think that there is a different, aside from the language that they have with their groups, I believe that they have signals, if you will, using natural materials, wood on wood, or rock against rock, or different types, whether it's truly a wood knock, or some people speculate that it is actually their mouth that they're using to sound like a wood knock.
Pop it. Yeah, like when you stick your finger in your mouth, pop it, go.
Something like that. And that it's so loud, they have such a massive, forceful volume that they can do that. It sounds like a wood knock to our ears. But we don't have that capacity based on our size and lung strength to do that. We just don't have that ability. So there is language. They have rules, I'm sure, that they teach their young as they're growing up. And they're observers. They've been called many things, of course, but they're also the day watchers, where I believe that they do have members of the group that watch people in an area. I believe we're kind of entertainment, if you will, but also they're learning about us, and they can mimic sounds extremely well. And
that whistle was identical to mine. It did at least, I'd say 3 times. It was identical, because I thought it was my neighbor making fun, poking fun at me. Because I was beating on trees and doing the whistling, and he coming up there. I thought, well, here he come up there with his dog, and he's trying to aggravate me. But, I was going to laugh about it, but it wouldn't.
Right.
It wouldn't. My son said it was some idiot like you, Daddy. He heard you whistle, so he's down there looking for you to whistle. And when he heard you whistle, he realized it was you, and he snuck off. But I thought, well, if that's the case, I would have heard him.
Well, I think something like this that is whistling back, and it's such a loud, crisp whistle, I think these creatures do. I mean, they obviously, we've had them whistle at our camp when we were in deer camp in southeast Oklahoma numerous times, and they've been around us. We've had tree crashes, and so they will whistle like that, absolutely, and they will mimic.
And the ladies was out in the yard working right before that. I know I keep throwing that in there, and it sounds like weird, but something about that, it just made me wonder if that didn't draw them in. And the thing, her sister was up here the other day. As soon as she went to her car, she said, "I smell something dead." And I thought,
well,
and then I smelled the dog with ammonia, And sir, I know I'm cutting you off, but I look up my woods and I see a tree fall. But all of a sudden, next thing I know, I don't see a tree fall. I see a log pile. A log pile, like they pile logs on the top of each other.
Yeah.
Maybe they hide behind or something so they can watch me.
Oh.
Even in the winter nearly, You can see them plain. I can show them to you. Because, I mean, if a log tree's going to fall, great, but how many trees fall on top of each other to where they're just straight? You know what I mean?
Oh, really interesting. Yeah, well, that would make sense. But it's very rare.
But it's right up on the hill on the side, and I thought, well, if they're going to sit and watch me, that'd be a perfect place for them to do it,
Right.
And this is one thing. I heard a tapping one night. Tap, tap, tap.
On what?
Tap, tap, tap. This was about 3 o'clock in the morning. Did I tell you that?
No.
And I kept hearing it. I woke my wife up. You hear that tapping sound? Cause we live up here, and I got my antennas up because we're old people, and they stole 3 houses on this road, and I can't own a gun because of what happened, you know.
Right, right.
And I've got a pellet rifle. I got me in case for coyotes because I've got a puppy, and I killed copperhead with it the other day. But I kept hearing that tapping sound.
Was this on the house?
It was like it was coming outside. Tap, tap, tap.
Okay,
and
okay.
It drove me crazy. I said, you hear that? And it was in a rhythm. Tap, 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 tap. And I said, I'm going to record it. And I recorded that. And like a dummy, I erased it. But I let my wife hear it and a few other people hear it. And I didn't think that about it. I just left my phone on and went to sleep. Well, the next day I was going to play it back, listen to it.
Yes.
And they so said if I'm lying, I'm a dying. They was sound like a bear tangled up in a thorn bushes. Something just was pitching a fit. I mean, making all kind of racket.
Really?
Yes, sir. Honest. And I thought it was
sound
a bear.
racket, like growling and everything.
Yeah, growling like it was ornery.
Oh.
Ornery. I thought, well, I went up there and beat on trees and woke them up and aggravated them to where they're tapping back. They're coming down here and whistling and finding out it ain't nothing but a little bald-headed guy, you know? So I thought they might have been coming to pay me a visit in the middle of the night. But I know it sounds silly, but I just don't think God let them close to my house. In Jesus' name, I got a certain area I claim in Jesus' name, and
there you go.
All the other animals can go live somewhere else, you know?
That's right.
They got all them woods they can go live in.
That's right. And I know what people are going to say. I have told many people on and off air, that's what I've done for my property. I've blessed my property, and I know some people that may not be believers. You know, everybody has their own right to believe what they want, of course. But being a Christian man, that's what I believe, and Jesus' name is protective, and so that's what I've done for my house and my property. So I've had some weird, let's say, spirit entities around my house.
Yes, sir.
I have proof of that. But after I did the blessing of the house and the property, I have zero now. I have nothing. So, because I do believe that anything that has some level of malevolence to it, or evil, and I know that some people may not believe that, and that's okay, that these Bigfoot are just inherently evil. I think that they're inherently somewhat evil just because of the genetic nature of, in my personal opinion, where they came from. I do believe that there's a biblical association with them, and I do believe, honestly, that they are responsible. They are responsible for people that are missing. Now, do I think that all of them are that way? No, but the thing of it is, we don't know which ones are and which ones are not, and so I just don't trust. I don't trust any of them.
Yes, sir.
And you got to be careful. And so that's why I say
the devil could come as an angel of light. He could come as a good-looking blonde with a fifth of liquor in a Corvette and tempt us. You see what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever our drink is. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Then these things, God might have made them, but they might not be. But everybody pets their old hog and names it and pets it, and they pet their cows and they name them, don't they?
They do.
But don't they still end up butchering them?
They do. Most of the time they do.
Things that you're calling nice and people are calling nice, you don't know exactly what you're being led into.
Well, that's just it. You don't. And since we don't know the nature of their psyche, then we have to be careful. And so They just have to be treated with, and that's why when I go out into the woods, I don't go out without a firearm. Now that's me.
Yeah,
That's me. And some people you may not, like yourself.
Well, I can't, but I tell you what, I don't wander through the woods. I got my little road I walk up and down, and I feel safe. But like I said, I when you talk about that guy in Ohio, I heard you talking to him, and I heard his voice, and he sounded like a strong man. If he's a ranger, he wasn't no joke.
No,
I don't want to see one. I just don't want to see one. That's my worry. I don't want to see one.
Yeah. So
what I do.
So a couple things here. You said about grandkids. I would, if they come and play at your place, I would absolutely make sure that they wear brightly colored shirts and clothing, nothing dark. And I would make sure that they play where you can see them. There's no hide and seek on the edge of the woods. I wouldn't allow that.
Yes.
And I would make sure that your woods are cut far away from your house or your trailer.
I've done that, and they grow back this summer. I'm going to have to do it fall because it's snaky and whatnot. And we got some of big wasps. Have y'all got those big yellow wasps? They're big as your thumb.
Yeah. We have a few of them. We have a lot of the red wasp and some hornets. And then,
are you in Broken Arrow? Are you located in Broken Arrow?
I used to be. I'm about an hour west in a small little community, very small community, about an hour west of Tulsa.
Okay. My brother-in-law lives in Broken Arrow. That's why I've been out there one time.
Okay.
And we got out of the airplane in Kansas in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And we had a rental van, and my sister's brother-in-law had the keys. And every one of us hollered, hit the buzzard, hit the buzzard, hit the buzzard, because we were freezing. I had never felt so cold in my life. And we was all hollering, because if we heard the horn, we could run toward the van and get in it, you know?
Right.
God, it was cold. I've never felt it that cold, but I remember
that was unusual.
All of us hollered, hit the buzzard, hit the buzzard, hit the buzzard. It was freezing. There ain't no trees.
Yeah.
It was...
There's a lot of trees where I live here. I mean,
yeah, we went in like a Kentucky Fried Chicken, and it slammed the door back. The wind did so hard if a child been in it, it crushed them.
Yeah.
It just, I'm used to Georgia weather, but that took my breath.
Yeah.
Then I had a friend from Chicago. He wore when it got cold down here. He wore a sweatshirt. That was his jacket.
Wow.
And I said, all you got on is a sweatshirt. He said, I lived in Chicago, man. You don't know what cold is.
Yeah, that's the thing. Chicago, yeah. I lived in Minnesota for a while, too, and I was going to school, and it's the same way. And my father-in-law and relatives, they live up in Fargo-Moorhead area, and that place, it gets really cold. I want to visit in the summer, but not so much in the winter. But so a couple things I want to talk about here before we get off here, just to make sure, is it's such an honor to talk with you. I'm so glad that you called.
I appreciate you calling me, man.
And absolutely, and I hope it makes you feel a little bit better just talking about this, because I know a lot of people.
Cut back the bush, get lighting, right?
Get lighting. I want you to cut back the vegetation.
Stupidity.
So I want you to go ahead and take the tree canopies up a little bit. I want you to cut them up, if you can, about anywhere from 6 feet on up. And then any of the undergrowth, I want you to take that down. Of course, you need to do that anyway because of snakes and mice and everything.
Yeah, I'm going to do that, definitely.
And then what you can do is, if there's any dark areas around the house, you can use these solar motion-activated lights. And you can put that up around the house. And that helps a lot keep them away.
Okay.
I mean, that's another thing you can do, is those solar motion activated lights. They don't like those lights tripping off. They don't want to be in, when it's dark, they don't like to be visible.
Yeah.
Also,
I always wondered if they were some kind of, I know I'm changing that, but if they were some kind of really intelligent and the Indians had names for them. if they saw, I said Indian, Native American, if they, excuse me for doing that, but if they saw how we treated them, it might have a lot to do with the way they do. I mean, I know it probably, that's just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good thoughts out there in
the way we treat Trail of Tears and all that, and if they even knew her, they would.
Yeah, so, it gets into a whole nother arena of topic, really, when we start, because a lot of these Native American burial grounds and sites that they inhabited and lived in a long time, which are everywhere in Oklahoma, of course, and many parts of the United States, but a lot of these creatures are seen in these areas, especially burial grounds. So I think there is some level of interrelation or association there. I just don't know how to link that or how that fits in.
I wondered if they picked up on how they got treated, if they would, it makes them definitely, if they're intelligent enough to want to try to beat something together to communicate or throw rocks at you to try to get your attention or something. It makes you wonder. Like you said, they're friendly ones and they're bad ones, but I'm just appreciate you calling me. I know I'm taking your time.
That's okay. We're still going to go over a couple things here. So you're going to cut back the trees. You're going to raise the canopies up. You're going to cut the undergrowth. Consider some solar lights, motion-activated lights. Look for vehicles that we talked about. If you ever, and this is a big if, but if someone ever comes to the door and starts asking you questions about things, just play dumb about it. I would just don't get detailed, and they're going to be very generic about their questions. They're going to say, "We hear you have things going on." They won't say the word Bigfoot. They won't say the word dog man. They won't say anything like that. They'll just say, "We hear you have things going on," and so you just, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what you're talking about. Who are you? Who's your supervisor? How did you find me? What's your name? You just keep asking questions back.
Yeah, what's this all about?
Yeah, keep asking questions back at them, and then they'll just finally walk away. But, be mindful, of course, never put anything on social media. If you take pictures of something, if you take any pictures of anything, make sure it's on a non-Wi-Fi camera or device. So use old school technology. So there's digital cameras that are non-Wi-Fi. That's what I would use to take photos, because so many apps on our phone give those apps full authority to use, remove, or take and use all our photos and videos. So they can kind of infiltrate that way and erase what you have on there. So take it with the camera. If you find something extremely interesting, a print, a breakover, anything, then...
There's one spot up the road that keeps, it's soft moss, and I've been keeping an eye on it, and something is tearing that moss up. And it looks, some does look like footprints, but it could be a bear just walking in its own tracks. But it's been tearing the moss up, and some of them are small, and some of them are big.
Well, you know what the print's going to be. A bear will leave its claws down. They don't retract their claws.
Okay.
So bears will...
Some of them look like they had toes. They really did.
Yeah,
I check it all the time.
It'll have a large pad. And
it's in between the house. Did I tell you 3 at the bottom of the hill? And then we're the 3 at the end of the road. It's in between us.
Okay.
It's just a perfect blind spot. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well...
Because the creek makes a circle so they can go from one side of the creek to the other side of the creek. And all. And I have seen a bear in my yard. I got a picture of it. It's about a 200-pound bear. It's a healthy bear. And when it saw me come out on the deck, though, it run like an old dog. It just took off.
Most bears...
We got one around 500 pounds. He won't run. He'll just walk right, keep on walking. I mean, he don't run.
That's a big-sized bear.
What kind of noise you make. He just walks off.
That's a big bear. That's a big bear.
He's dangerous. He's no joke.
Yeah, so...
They need to go back in the house if you see him coming.
Yeah, there's more black bear attacks than brown bear or grizzly. So just because they're very prevalent and they're everywhere, we don't have any brown bears per se in the lower 48. We just don't. But we do in Alaska, of course. In the Canada, there's some bears up through there, and they do sometimes trickle down. But for the most part, it's black bears what we have a high prevalence of. So so you're going to do some of those things, and I hope our conversation helped quite a bit. And if you ever have anything very a question or any strange ongoings or something,
a lot. I just wanted to get somebody that wouldn't talk to me like I was a knucklehead, or or would talk to me, period,
Right. Well, I'm glad that you called, and I'm so...
Lance, I appreciate it. It makes me feel like you really, I tell you, it makes you show you care, and I watch a show like shows you care. You ain't just on the air to make money off of YouTube. As I listen to a lot of them, and all they want to do is talk about the big things they're fixing to do, and the cameras they're fixing to buy, and all that stuff. And I'm sitting there wanting to hear something that I need to hear.
Yeah, that's...
That I need to pass on.
Well...
That I'm not going to help somebody else.
Well...
I don't want to run into one of these things. I'd squall like a baby if I run into one of these.
Well, here's the thing. You don't have to worry about a gun because you say you don't carry one, so there's no sense you're not going to point something at them. And the thing of it is that if you confront one, a big if here, but if you confront one, you just use normal tones of voice, you show your hands, and you back out the way you came. If you can.
Yes, sir.
You just say, and you just talk in normal tone. Just say, "Hey, buddy, you've been around. I know someone was around here. Your family's around here. I don't want to harm you or your family. I'm just doing my thing. I'm just living over here. So I'll mind my business. You mind your business, and I'll leave you alone. You don't have to worry about me." And so you just back out slowly, and then you just walk out nice and easy. Show your hands and just walk back. 99% of the time, they'll just walk on and you won't hear them, I would say. Now, if you get one that gets kind of aggressive for unknown reasons,
yes, that's what I want to know.
You don't want to run, and they could be bluffing you, but you just still show your hands. You try to hold. You're not going to outrun them, and you're not going to out strong arm them. So you just show your hands and just hold your ground the best you can.
And I told my wife this. I said, if you hear something down in the woods that sounds like a woman getting killed, I said, don't go running down there and thinking you're going to help her.
That's right.
I said,
Don't do that.
Don't do that. I said, it sounds crazy, but if you have to call the sheriff department and just report it, even if they don't find nothing, all you got to do is report that you heard it.
That's right.
If they don't find nothing, it's no big deal. They'll still come and check it on it because of what it is.
Right.
And I said, I don't want to get them involved, but at the same time, people want to try to be, rescue somebody. And to me, I done heard people say they do that, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, and what you could do is you could, if you think it's maybe one of these creatures, these beings, I would say you could add to that. If your wife is by herself and she hears that screaming and she calls, you could say, I hear something screaming. It could be a mountain lion in heat or a bobcat in heat, but if you don't mind coming just to check on it, that way, because they always have to have a report when they get there, because in that way, by putting that in the report, even if you think it's not a bobcat, you still want to say that because they have to write that in a report. And if they write what you think it is, if you say, I think it's a Sasquatch, I think it's, I've been having this happen, they have to document that, and that may go down the chain to someone. Then you might have someone knocking at your door, two guys in suits.
Asking for it. I asked for it.
So what you want to say is that, I heard some screaming, and I think it is either a mountain lion in heat or a bobcat. Can you guys just check on it, And that way they go, oh, yeah. So even if you think it's not, at least kind of give that explanation. That way it doesn't throw up any red flags.
Thank you. Well, Lance, I appreciate your time, and I know you're busy. It's Sunday night. I'll let you go.
No problem. It was so nice talking to you.
Job or what? I'm retired, so I could talk all night. So, and I would if you let me. So I'll let you go, man, and I love you, and I appreciate it.
Love you too, man. Take care, brother. And if you have any questions and concerns, call anytime.
Thank you, sir. Take
care. Okay, so this here, he didn't have a sighting, which is fine. That's a blessing. But I found it interesting. He's having a lot of things going on at the property. He's just been trying to get this off his chest. And like most people that call in, they want immediate answers typically. A lot of people want to just be understood. Everybody wants to be understood. They want to be heard and understood. So what he has going on, he has had whistling going on. He's got odd things around, like this brush pile of the trees that are not, instead of haphazard laying here and there, they're all kind of falling on each other, which I found very interesting. But I think he's right on to something, that they could be using it as a block to get behind and possibly monitoring him, especially if it's up higher where they can easily observe what's going on down below. I think this figure that he saw behind a car in front run extremely fast. The likelihood of a human dressed all in black with black shoes and a hoodie running at night super fast and then gone super fast is highly unlikely. I think it is one of these cryptids, possibly a Bigfoot, it sounds like, based on the whistling and this knocking, whether it's done by the mouth or it's really done, on a tree, or done by hands. It's a little unclear yet. Now, do I think that they do use wood knocking? I really think they do, but I think they're so powerful in their hands and their upper body, their upper torso strength, as well as their mouth and their diaphragm, and everything is so strong they can do either way they want. And each of those different ways has a meaning to them, I'm sure. Which we're still understanding what those are. But I think based on a little bit of everything that he's had happen, the smells, the ammonia smell, this dog smell, is it possible that there is more than one cryptid or creature in that area? I think so. Where one habitates, is it the same habitat another one could thrive or survive in? Yes, why not? Where he has these homes, and then this creek runs down, and it's high walled. It's got high cliffs. I mean, you talk about a perfect habitat or area to kind of recluse in. And you've got water, you've got game, you've got cover. I mean, it's perfect. Not only if it's perfect for a human, it'll be perfect for them, right? You want to stay out of the wind, you want to stay out of the rain, they do too. Now, they can survive a heck of a lot easier than we can in it. We need Gore-Tex gear and Thinsulate and insulation and all this stuff, and gloves and packed boots. Of course, they don't. But this was interesting because I think this gentleman is like hundreds, if not thousands, of other type of people that have something strange going on. They want to talk to someone. They've already been ridiculed a little bit, and they just want someone to take them serious. And could it be a coincidence that all this is just kind of a mistaken? Yeah, I guess occasionally those things happen, especially if it's just one incident. It's really hard to draw off it unless it's a true, very close encounter that you knew 100% what you saw. But I think these events that this eyewitness heard, and so it was more auditory incidences that have occurred. I think he had something going on. I think he still does, but my concern is making sure these children are safe, and they wear brightly colored shirts, and they're not out in the evening. They don't get close to the wood line. We don't want to be, have a David Politis missing person 411, especially with kids. So I think that they can make all kinds of sounds. I think they can make children sounds, screaming sounds, all kinds of interesting sounds to lure us away from our, domicile, right? To see, are we coming out with a gun, or are they, how are we going to come out? What's our presentation to them? So they're taking this all in. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you learned a lot, as always. Still working behind the scenes, doing some interesting things for you guys. But until next time, this is Lance with Monster 911. Take care.